How are you?
I'm awesome. We got almost 200 people already.
Yes.
Bigger account, man. They got to go to 10,000.
Yeah.
You got to show up to get it done.
Okay, Dr. Michael, as usual, for the introduction, can I see some engagements from the floor? How many of y'all are first time listening to Dr. Michael Donaldson sharing?
Don't know.
Right.
No, we've talked about like why is it different, and it is very different.
Yes.
And doctors get the alkaline ionized concept, which is dangerous. They don't get. Wait a minute. There's a ton of research. So when we launched the platform and we opened it up, like I said, it was the way that we did our team. But when we opened it up to the healthcare providers, I mean, their number one statement is, I had no idea there was this much clinical research. It's just vastly different. And so my goal is to help people like you.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Michaels. You are okay. Yes, done.
And it's like you said, doctors are they're ignorant of what's out there. And right. So if we can help educate the physicians, yes, it's going to help you. It's going to help your business. But how many people here in Magic has dramatically changed their health? Not just their finances, but their health. Throw a 3 in the comments. You'll see that there's just like people everywhere. We need this.
Yes.
I didn't do this because, I wanted to learn to make money online and I wanted a side hustle in my practice. I did it for my daughter's health. And
okay, Dr. Michael, since you're on that topic, because there are a lot of new people that are here today, as you can see from the number ones that they gave you just now, I really want you to go into a little bit of detail, spend about, let's say, 5 minutes, tell the people here about Skylar's story. I tell you, that story is amazing. It's not a medical claim. I don't believe it's a medical claim, but I believe it's a story to validate that we have something really amazing. So please share with us that story.
Absolutely. So back in 2009, our fourth child, we have 5, but our fourth child was born with what's called gastroschisis. And she's literally born inside out. Stomach, liver, pancreas, spleen, small intestine, large intestine, bladder, all on the outside. Literally, when she was getting ready, they were saying that they weren't going to be able to transport her. So the very first time I saw my daughter, she was in a trash bag a sterile grade trash bag from the waist down.
Gosh.
And it was insane. And we didn't know what to do. And so when they finally got her to a point where they could transport her, and they got her to the children's hospital, and they put everything in this tube. And I mean, I've got some pictures I can show you if you.
Situation. Can you see that, guys? I mean, I will feel the pain in my heart too, right? I mean, look at that.
Yeah, it's there's no words to describe it.
Yeah.
I mean, you should. I hate to say that you expect to outlive your parents, but you don't expect to outlive your children. And I mean, the whole world came crashing down. And the next piece of that was they got her transported. They put all that stuff that was in here. That's the rest of her intestines. Now they should be about the size of her finger. You can see how fat and swollen it is. That's all the inflammation in the bowel. And so they were like, it was the worst case they'd had. They didn't know what to do with her. And I actually know of children that were born out on, like one lady that reached out to me. Her daughter was born the same way. But they weren't as well equipped as we were in Atlanta, and they actually removed most of the intestines.
Oh.
And that girl's on a feeding port for most of her life. So, I mean, we're just so unbelievably fortunate. But that stopped my whole world. And so what happened was she was in the hospital for a year, and when they released her, they sent her home, and they sent her home. I don't know if you know how much home health care is, but it's really expensive. And usually you get 5 to 10 hours a week max just to monitor. If you have serious problems, they'll give you upwards of 20. They send Skylar home with 100 hours a week of home health care.
How old was she in this picture, Dr. Michaels?
She's about 8 months old.
Oh,
and that's when she suffered from the acute dehydration syndrome. And we didn't even know what it was. And so if you look at the picture in the top left, that's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
That other picture down below is after we've gone to the hospital and they've revived her. And they have filled her up with almost 800 cc's of water, like with needles in the vein, just trying to hydrate her. And she just crashed. And so, like, you know, the way that the world is running with all the COVID stuff, you know, parents are going like, I can't go get my kid from school just because they closed it because somebody had I mean, it was literally trying to run a practice. And it's like, Skylar's going into surgery. And we would clear the books and be gone for days. And so you know, it was emotionally devastating. It was financially devastating. It was professionally devastating. I mean, it was just, your whole life becomes, I have to save my child. And whatever else happens. And, you know, it's been over 10 years now, and we're just now recovering from all those pieces. The PTSD, all that stuff. And so what you end up with is, how do you recover? And so for us, we went on a search for hydration because they told us when the nurses find that she's dehydrating, and that was what the 100 hours they would weigh her every couple hours in case the bowel stopped. They wouldn't absorb water because that was the only way you could get it in. At the time, that was the understanding. And they said, if it happens, call 911, get in the car, and get here as fast as you can. Don't wait for an ambulance. They won't be able to help her. And you're like, at the end of a year in the hospital with your child and all this stuff, you're like near death. She almost died 5 or 6 different times. You're like, no, that can't possibly happen, right? And so the first time it happens, you literally have your child beside you dying as you're racing to a hospital on the phone with 911 asking for a police escort. Like, that's a thing. Yeah. It never crossed my mind. And so when we finally kind of got our feet back under her, when we brought her back, we had to pay bills. So we actually put the NICU, which is a neonatal intensive care unit, in our chiropractic office with the nursing staff there so that we were both together with her. And so my wife had we had a bed in there. She'd crashed in that room. She had the nurses' stations were there. I mean, it was insane. And, that second year, everybody sees the picture, but the second year, she was on these force feeds. And when you're on force feed on a liquid diet, you can just imagine what it's like to use the stool. I mean, it was everywhere every morning. We literally had to clean up the whole room. We had a plastic sheet underneath the crib because it would just run right out of the crib.
Right.
It was unreal. So, yeah, it was an intense experience. And then as we went through the different things, I kind of became a hydration expert. And I think the Enagic machine was the 8th machine that I tried. But by number 7, I was very opposed to alkalinized water because it creates blood issues. It creates blood chemistry issues. It becomes toxic. The plates were degrading. There was mold and fungus, and it was in all of our kids now. And so I was very, very opposed to all these machines when a patient came in and said, you need to try my alkalinized water. And I'm like, and so it was really under duress that I tried it just to get her to shut up. And we had been on the phone with the hospital and the doctor's office. And when the doctor calls you with test results, it's never good. Usually the staff will say, hey, your test came back, it was great. But when the doctor's office calls and it's like, hey, it's Dr. Seth, we need to talk.
Oh.
Your whole world
serious, right?
is in control again. And she was in failure to thrive. Like, nothing was working. She wasn't gaining weight. She wasn't metabolizing food. She couldn't digest fats. She couldn't digest proteins. She could barely break down carbs. They were worried about brain damage because when you're at 3-year age stage, you've got to have a lot of fats in order for your brain to work and to grow. And so it was like, I just got that news, and there's this lady on the table that goes, Skylar doesn't have to suffer because you're too stubborn to try the water. I'll give it to you for free. I can't even tell you the thoughts that went through my head at that point.
Yeah.
Because I was so angry. And then that small voice inside said, just try it. You've tried everything else. And the conversation going on in my head was, I've already tried a bunch of these machines and it made everybody sick. Just try the water. I said, fine, bring your water and I'll run these tests again and then I'll prove to you it doesn't work. But when the results come back that it's dangerous, you can't ever mention it to another person. She said, okay.
So Dr. Michael, you did that because you were trying to prove her wrong, right?
It didn't work. That was a fraud.
Yeah. And you did that because of your past experience with the other ionizer machines, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
So guys, before Dr. Michael continues, there are a few points that I just want to bring up. I hope it makes sense to you all. Number one, you cannot blame some of these medical experts or some people who are in the medical field because they are just like Dr. Michael that is unfortunate enough to have to go through the different other so-called the same like Kangen but not the same. And therefore, they are having all the bad experiences just like Dr. Michael. So you can't blame them for having the doubts. You can't blame them for having negative perception of what Kangen water is all about. Just like what Dr. Michael is saying to y'all. But what I really liked about what Dr. Michael say, and I want y'all to write it down if you have a pen or paper next to you. If you don't have, just quickly grab one or write it on your phone. And that was that message that first time when I heard Dr. Michael, if you still remember Dr. Michael, the first time I met you was in Florida, Orlando, right? You carried my daughter, remember when she was still so small, such a small baby? Yep. And I always remember that remark, and he just mentioned a while ago, Dr. Michael. He mentioned this, he says, Dr. Michael, you don't need to, say it again, because you are stubborn. Say that word again, Dr. Michael, that phrase.
Oh, your daughter doesn't need to suffer because you're too stubborn to try the water?
I'm telling you guys, that is the magic word. If in the future you are facing some really hard-headed people, some hard-nosed people that just would not even bother to listen, after all, you have nothing to lose, right? You are going to walk away without a sale. Just say these magic words, okay? Your daughter, your son, your father-in-law, your brother, whatever it is, do not have to suffer because of your... Wow, I can see that.
There's a young Gary again.
Hey, guys, look at how fat I was those days, how chubby I was, right?
Easy now.
Easy
now.
Yeah.
Hey, at least my bottle matches my shirt.
Yeah, that was my first time with Dr. Michael, and we became very close today. Thank you so much for inspiring me with so much of your knowledge.
It was actually, Skylar still had 100 hours a week of home health care. That's why she wasn't there. And it's like somebody just posted a comment that they can only drink hospital-grade water. And,
right.
You know, what's scary is because people they're making, and, you know, and you and I have talked about some of the false claim stuff.
Yep.
But it's like, no, disease can't exist in an alkaline environment. That's simply not true. It absolutely can. But the doctors and the attorneys and the legal ramifications, it's all a liability issue. So if we can give you the cleanest water possible, you can't say we did something wrong to your child.
Right.
It becomes liability. And there's not a cost-benefit ratio when you compare alkaline ionized to reverse osmosis. But when you look at the research and you go, wow, electrolyzed reduced water is completely different than all these waters on the screen. All these waters are literally dangerous. Some are better than others, but none of them are good. And then you find out that there's electrolyzed reduced water, and you're like, what's the difference here? And there's a huge difference. And, the easiest way to describe it is your body's a fish tank.
Yep.
You guys probably have saltwater fish up there and tanks, and,
Yep.
They'll spend $10,000 for a fish, and coral and clams and oysters and filtration. You'd be like, hey, can I just pour a bottle of white wine in there? Have a nice glass of seltzer water. You'd kill all the fish. They don't want you tapping the glass. And yet, people do that all the time, and then they wonder why they're sick. They got a dirty fish tank. You can literally have all that mold and fungus and algae inside your body. It's a contained environment. It has a filtration system. It has an oxygenation system. All those pieces. And so that's when you had to figure out what makes it different to get it work. And that's how you make the body healthier. And to finish the story, Skylar started the water, and in 4 days, you got to realize, if I'm sick, I'll take care of myself, sort of.
Yep.
If you have a really sick child, dude, we did everything.
Everything.
And we imported water from crazy parts of the world. We did, hydration drops. We did filtration. We did baths. We did, pills, potions, snake oils, you name it. Why, it's my child. And so when I say we had tried everything, we had tried everything except one.
Kangen water.
and it was the electrolyzed reduced water made all the difference. And it wasn't just an electrolyzed reduced water machine because it had molecular hydrogen. That actually wasn't, molecular hydrogen is important, and everybody's really hung up on that right now because it's a great marketing tool. It's like microcluster isn't actually a word, but it explains the concept. Molecular hydrogen. It's hydrogen. What about what it was for Skylar was the hydroxide. That's what removed all the inflammatory enzymes. That allowed her body to actually absorb. Really, Mom? It's always good when your mom calls in the middle of a conference. I've only had 4 phone calls since then. But, we had gone through it all. And there is a huge difference in, Mom, don't call me right now. She's 84, bless her heart. She just wants to talk to me.
Okay.
And so long story short, when we tried the water, within 4 days, everything was different. It's not that it was a cure, it was 72% of the equation. And I want to be clear, we were still doing everything else. It wasn't, just do water. It was water that made all the other stuff work. When I go into a doctor's office and they're doing, foot baths and lasers and nutrition and biofeedback and neurofeedback and this and that and everything else, I'm like, wow, you have an amazing office. They're like, why, thank you. I said, you are doing everything. They're like, yeah, we cover every base. I said, well, what are you using for water? And they're like, well, we recommend a good bottled water. And I look at it and I'm like, so all this is, you do realize that the patient is 72% water, right? And they're like, yeah. So everything you're doing is the 28% that's not water. If I gave them the best water in the world, I would be doing 3 times more than you with no effort. And they go, tell me more. And that's the simplest conversation. And then you send them real cold, hard science. Here's electrolyzed reduced water. Here's how it works. And they go, why do I not know about this? I don't know, but I'll share with you. And then it's a really good open dialogue. And like I said, you and I have talked about some stuff. I've got some big projects. And I'm like, I really want to help the physicians help their patients. That's why this was kind of my team building, my own niche, my own sales point. And like in practice, I could help, a couple hundred people a week. When we got into Enagic and we started to help literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. But I still had my little secrets for my team.
Right.
And people are still going, I'm having a hard time talking to my doctor. They won't. And I realized that I had a bigger obligation, and that was to educate physicians on how to educate their patients. And, that was when I was talking with Balaj and...
Yes. Dr. Michael, can I ask you a question? Why is water so understudied? As in, everybody, like you mentioned, everybody talks about all the high-tech stuff, but when they come to water, they have literally no idea, and they don't even know that water is so important. Why do you think is that so in the medical world? Why do people not put any emphasis or any importance of water, especially with the medical healthcare practitioner?
So the research for electrolyzed reduced water started in the mid-70s and 80s.
Right.
There's no education.
Okay.
Their idea is they were misled with the idea of water purity. And that means there's no parts per million. It's completely sterile. That means it's extremely acidic.
Right.
They've never addressed the fact that it's not that it's acid water. It's that acid water contains no hydrogen, oxygen, or hydroxide that's available. So you get poor hydration.
Right.
And when you start to talk to doctors about restructured water, about reduced water, ionized water, and then you go, but we're blowing the water apart. When you say alkaline to a physician, his mind is, well, let's add baking soda, potassium, magnesium, get the mineral content up.
Yes.
That's where their brain's at. It's the chemistry.
Yes.
And if you talk to some people and say electricity can't affect water, actually it can. And so the electricity of ERW it's hit with such a charge, it blows the water apart. It breaks those bonds holding the oxygen and hydrogen together. And when that happens, you get hydrogen, oxygen, and hydroxide. And the ratio of the hydroxide driving the pH up is what makes it look like it has a higher pH.
Right.
I was talking to somebody and I said, we should get rid of the pH concept. And you had small, medium, large clusters.
Right.
Because the pH indicates that electrolysis has happened, but in and of itself, it means nothing. Because I can take Sprite or LaCroix or seltzer water or wine or beer, and I can add enough baking soda to make the pH high. Doesn't mean it's healthy. But when you talk about it, it's like all electrolyzed reduced water has a high pH because that's what happens. But just because water has a high pH, it's not electrolyzed. There's a big difference. And then people are like, well, if you go to add electricity, that's not natural. Like, you see the lake?
Yep.
That thing gets struck by lightning on a regular basis. You're over at the ocean. You see it get the electric storms, and you see all the lightning strikes and all that, and there's no rain. That's an electrolyzed reduced water generator on the oceans, the lakes, the bodies of water.
Right.
And then they go, oh, wow. And so that's how it out. And for Skylar, it was so dramatic that, when your kid, you get a lot of kids too. When your kids scream, there's shush. Or then there's the scream that's real panic and you go running for your life.
Yes.
So Skylar did that one morning in the bathroom, and she was about 3.5 when we discovered the water. And she's like, Daddy, and I'm like, what? And as I'm running, trying not to lose my towel, I'd gotten out of the shower, and she's like, there's a snake in the bathroom. And I'm like, oh, for the love of God, no, not a water moccasin or viper or something. We fought too hard to get to this point. She doesn't need to die from a snake bite.
Right.
and that's everything that's going through my brain. And the next thing you know, she's like, "There's a snake in the potty." I'm like, child gets bit on butt from snake bite. And I'm looking and I'm like, where? And you're kind of going like, I don't see a snake. Kind of gross. She goes, it's right there. It just crawled out of my belly.
Okay.
She had her first solid bowel movement.
Wow.
And so, Mr. O's banana water. Yeah, yep. She had her first one, and it freaked her out because she'd only had liquid stools until that point in her life.
Amazing.
And so she really thought a snake had crawled out of her belly. And she knew what a snake was because, we lived on a lake at the time. I mean, we've always lived on water somewhere. Right. And so I was like, freaked, but then I did what every good parent does. I took a picture of the first solid poopy and sent the message to my wife and said, I'm buying one of these machines. And she was at the gym, and the text back was, yeah, you better have it ordered before I get home. And she just left right away. We came home. We cried,
You mean, Dr. Michaels, until that point of time, you still haven't owned your own machine? You were still getting water from that lady?
This was only 10 days into trying it.
Right.
11 days ago, I had insulted this woman because she didn't know what she was talking about because alkaline water was dangerous.
Right.
10 days before that, she had said, you don't have to be stubborn, try the water.
Yes.
And then 10 days, she had her first solid bowel movement. And in 6 months, we removed all the feeding ports and everything. So for us, now, was it a cure? No. Was it the missing piece to a very complicated puzzle? Yeah. And it was, if you look at the screen, this is everything we worked on over here, and 72% of everybody is water.
Oh.
So you look at your screen right now. This is the part that is water.
Yes.
This is the part that we can mess with. Whether it's animals, pets, dogs, cats, plants,
Right.
I'm all about restructured water. You and I have had some other conversations about that. And so we have to get this information to physicians, but I want to be on the lake. So that's where we came up with a platform. And so we made it easy to educate people. We made it easy for physicians to understand. Because me helping you help your doctors helps more people.
That's true.
It's no longer about building my team or my access to me or, we've opened it up to help more people.
Awesome.
Because if you've got a chiropractor, a healthcare, an acupuncturist that you work with and you're trying to explain it to them, we now have the systems in place for you to do that. And now they've got hundreds of patients and you've just helped 100 more people. 1,000 more people, 10,000 more people. It's like we had that conversation. How many people have you put in your business since that picture in Orlando? Tens of thousands.
Thank you.
And you've talked about how much you liked the basic, even the little yellow whiteboard thing.
Yes.
There's no way I could have helped tens of thousands of people in my office. I saw 100 a week, 200 a week. Maybe 10,000 visits in a year from a lot of duplicates, but and so it becomes helping more people and helping other people help other people.
Right. Okay, Dr. Michaels, we had that conversation on the phone where you talked about a lot of people make this huge mistake by labeling Kangen water as an alkaline water. And I know you have a very good way of describing why we should not, because when I go and tell people, they said, oh yes, I know what you're talking about. Kangen water is that alkaline water, right? And I said, no, Kangen water is not alkaline. Then
cool.
They come out with
side note,
yes.
There's Skylar today.
Okay.
She likes to go boating too.
All right.
You there?
You just froze, Dr. Michael.
I'm here. You froze or I froze.
Okay.
Froze.
Yep, I can see you now.
Okay. So just as a side note for everybody, there's Skylar today.
Amazing, guys. Check it out. Check this out, man.
So here's the...
Yes.
You know how I talked about, to answer your question about alkaline versus alkalized?
Yes.
alkalized water, I said that electricity striking a body of water.
Yes.
You have to have a lot of power to blow water molecules apart. Right. And then get them all super excited. This is actually a process that's called the dissociation of water. You're using electricity to blow it apart. And that's where you create hydrogen, the oxygen, the hydroxide in water that's been restructured for absorption. That's the scientific term. Well, the reason that it's important is it gets into the cell better. But when you do electrical water versus chemical water, electrolyzed reduced water isn't chemically modulated, so it doesn't mess with the stomach and the stomach acid. Your stomach doesn't look at hydroxide and go, ooh, dump acid in that. It looks at it like, oh, that's buffered, we can use that. And that's where the alkaline concept gets people mixed up. It's the electrolyzed portion. It's not the pH.
Right.
So when a lake gets struck or the ocean gets struck by lightning, anybody here live by an ocean? Drop ocean or by water in the thing. And, you have those electrical storms every 3 or 4 days because the energy of the water drops and the storm starts to generate it because that's part of the way the body and the world produces oxygen. It only lasts 3 or 4 days. Well, when you have alkaline water, it builds up in the tissues. And when it builds up in the tissues, it can be dangerous because that's calcium, magnesium, potassium. The clinical research will say alkaline water is dangerous. Why? Because those things build up in the heart, the kidneys, the cardiovascular system. Electrolyzed reduced water doesn't add those chemicals. It doesn't add the bad stuff. It breaks it up. And even if you do nothing else, it's neutral in 3 or 4 days because that's what it does. The charge has what's called an exponential half-life. So if it's 800 today, at this time tomorrow it's 400, 48 hours it's 200, 100 until it swings. And after it gets below 100, it doesn't have the energy to maintain it, and it swings. That's why you got like 4 days. And it doesn't build up in your system. So that's why it's use it regularly, get one.
And that's also the reason why the alkalinity is not showing with a pH strip, right? Is it me or Jeffrey? What's happening? Is it me or is Dr. Michael?
Dr. Michael is having some connection problem.
Yeah, because I see he's like doing some Tai Chi skill stunts.
You were frozen. I was like, hello.
Yeah, you were frozen. All of us saw your hands like this,
No, I was clapping.
Okay, all right. So that's the reason why because it's not because of a chemical reaction. That's why it's not showing on a pH strip, right?
Yeah. I'll do when I do my pH test, it's more to indicate that something has happened so that there's 2 ways to do it. What's fun is take the filter. So most of the units have a filter in them, like the alkaline machines, but they have to be replaced when the pH starts to change. And they actually give you drops because they said test your machine regularly to make sure it's still producing alkaline water.
Right.
And that's because you run out of minerals in the filter. You can take the filter out of our machine, put in the cleaning cartridge, turn it on, and you're still going to get alkaline water. Why? And then people go, that shouldn't be happening.
Yes.
And then, another big difference why, now, some people will like it and some people won't. My loyalty with Enagic was what they did for my daughter and what it did for my patients. And I'm always looking for something better. It's my nature. And so I've been through about 30 or 40 different water machines. I've continued to test them. And Enagic is still the one that's on the top. So, I'm all about water. And like I said, we've talked about some other stuff.
Yes.
And Enagic just is the best. There isn't something that has surpassed it in all the categories. Now, there may be a machine here or something that does one particular thing better, But if it doesn't do the other 9, it's not a better machine. It's like, I'm kind of simple that way. It either does or it doesn't. Yes, no, 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 no.
Well, Dr. Michael, what is that one thing in Kangen machine that you, from a medical standpoint, because I know you have ripped up some of those, I don't want to name the names, but you have ripped up more machines than many other people out there.
I'm thinking I've probably done it more than most.
Yes. So after seeing the other machines and comparing it with Kangen, what is that one thing that you notice in Kangen that is making the water super, super special?
You're going to laugh.
Go ahead.
Everybody wants to talk about surface area for electrolysis. That's the way they mislead.
Guys, listen to this, man.
If I had my phone here, let's go. We'll do this. This is my phone. That's the surface. That's actually about the size of a plate.
Yep.
So my phone here, it's this thick. So what happens is people talk about surface area. We can get electrolysis and use less electricity because we have the same surface area. But the reality is, if I do this, it's now twice as thick, right?
Yep.
That thickness of the plate allows them to use twice as much power going through the plates. And I know we're in like an energy conservation concept, but what happens is you have to have a lot of electricity to blow the water apart and create stability. There are 3 machines out on the market right now that are claiming, and it's actually true, they do produce more molecular hydrogen than the Enagic machine.
Okay.
As long as you drink it within the first 2 hours.
First 2 hours.
If you don't drink it within the first 2 hours, it's already degrading so that within 24 hours, it's back to a positive charge. So if I filled up my water bottle and I went to work, by lunchtime, I'm drinking acid water. And they're only 20% cheaper than an Enagic machine. They don't have hypochlorous acid.
Right.
You can't clean your fruits and veggies. You can't use it for cosmetics. You can't use it to replace all the cleaners in your home. You can't share water with people. It's like, oh yeah, well we do this better. Okay, check. So when we enter into a conversation, and I get a lot of calls to debate this. So I've checked out your machine. I'm going to say straight up that your water out of the tap produces more molecular hydrogen. So you have that. We don't have to debate that. And you're like, well then why don't you use our machine? So let's talk about the amount of molecular hydrogen in your water at 4 hours.
Right.
Well, no, you drink the water. I said, no, I take it places. Yeah, but right out of the machine, I already gave you that. It doesn't last. It's not strong enough. It's underpowered. And that's because if they put enough current through these plates to make it stable, if you took their plates out of their machine and put it in even a junior, you'd melt the plates.
Wow.
Because it would literally, there's so much current that it would actually melt the plate. So that thickness is a big deal.
Dr. Michaels, what caused them to have more molecular hydrogen compared to Enagic? That just last 2 hours or 4 hours, whatever it is.
So what they do is, so if I have this is one of the rings on our other units. It's my fidget spinner.
Okay.
If this was solid, when you make a hole in it, you increase surface area. So if you look at, you know the grates that people like walk on for no-slip surfaces and they're like all cross-hatched?
Okay.
Well, what they do is they'll take a square that's this big and they stretch it so that it's this big.
Ah.
So you have more surface area.
But it's thinner.
And it melts. And they often have streaks through it. They'll crack.
No wonder.
It'll look like somebody hit it with an arc welder.
Right.
And so what happens is they've got that mesh plate, but they don't have enough power.
Right.
And there's the second part of that story is, you know, you want to maintain 7 to 21% oxygen in the air you breathe. And you may go to a thing and you may breathe at an auction club, pub thing like that, and you're like, whoa, that's cool. If you breathed 100% oxygen all day, every day, you die. It's poisonous. It's the same thing with hydrogen.
Right.
You don't want to get too much in your system.
That's true.
If you think about a scuba diver,
Yes.
they get too much nitrogen in their blood, it gives them
Exactly.
a lens. They have to depressurize.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm not a big advocate of like, hey, if a little's good, a lot is more. No, too much calcium, you'll calcify your thyroid, your pineal, your pituitary, your organs, your kidneys, you get kidney stones. Too much salt, you blow out your kidneys, you swell up. No, it's a real fine balance. And so it's not that there's more hydrogen, is there the right amount of hydrogen, and is it stable for a longer period of time? But now let's talk about hypochlorous acid. You know, one of the biggest things is, why do we have to have a solution to create 2.5 water?
Right.
We don't. You can take the solution out, push the 2.5 button, and go like put drops in, and you're like, hey, that's 2.5 water. Like, so why do I have to use the solution? You don't for 2.5 water. But you do have to have it for electrolyzed hypochlorous acid, which is actually what the medical rating is in Japan from the Ministry of Health. It's for the hypochlorous acid. It's the only machine on the market that produces it. Now, if you're like, hey, I'm going to drink right out of my faucet for every hour, and I want a hypochlorous acid machine, awesome. It's going to cost you $8,000 just to get 2.5 hypochlorous acid. $8,000.
Wow.
US. Or you can just push the next button down on our machine and it's there.
And it's free,
But
right?
at $8,000 for 2.5 hypochlorous acid, you don't get any 11.5 water.
I don't get you, Dr. Michael. How do they produce? Our machine makes 2.5, 11.5. But you are telling me that machine only makes 2.5. So how does that work? I don't get you.
It's the way they're processed. Their arrays, the array in the Terrace machine has to be replaced every 18 months,
Okay.
and it's $3,500 to replace it.
Wow.
Filters just got a lot cheaper.
Guys,
So,
are you getting?
so, you know,
Yeah.
dollar for dollar, you can't beat it.
Right.
You went into the doctor's platform. Did you watch the sterilization video I did?
Yes, I did.
And I sprayed it on the counter. I'm like, here's the ATP meter.
Yeah.
So most people don't realize that probably 2/3 of the bottled waters out there are coming out at a pH that's between 2.5 and 3.
Wow.
So, you know, when you do all the water drop tests and you're like, here's this water, and I'm not going to say names because
Okay.
obviously, but you go buy every single version of water that there is.
Yes.
If they're coming out that yellowish orange, hey, you just created 2.5, 3.5 water. That's what's coming out of the other machines.
Right.
That makes sense now?
Yeah.
And you don't want to drink that. But nobody's like, oh, I have a life-threatening disease. I've got MRSA. Let me rinse it off with bottled water.
Amazing. Dr. Michael, there are some people who actually advise or encourage people to drink the 11.5. What's your take on that? Even I've seen even books written by Robert Wright. I'm not sure if you know of that guy.
I've spoken Robert and I have shared the same stage multiple times.
Awesome.
He's actually a really good friend of mine. I can call him. He and I disagree on that.
Okay.
So what happens when you produce hypochlorous acid
All right.
is you are taking salt NaCl, and you're taking H2O, and it blows it apart, and it crosses over. So you get HO, the hydroxide Cl. That's hypochlorous acid.
Okay.
But it leaves a hydrogen with a salt, which is H and A. That's why it's a degreaser. That's why you can use it as a cleaning solution. Well, because of that, you're actually breaking down fat layers, your lipoprotein layers. You know, people may be hearing about some of the liposomal enzymes in nutrition these days.
Right.
Those are fat-based. Well, if you drink that for an extended period of time, you start to dissolve those fat layers.
Right.
So that's the actual science why you don't do it. Because it can create issues. Now, will you get extra amazing hydrogen, oxygen, and all that stuff to your brain? Yeah. So what I tell people is, remember how I told you, take the cartridge out and you're creating hypochlorous acid?
Yeah.
If you take the cartridge out, you're still going to get 11.5.
Without the salt solution? But I thought you yeah, go ahead. I thought you need the salt solution to enhance it, right? No?
You're not somebody's drawing all over the slides. So remember I said when we're doing hypochlorous acid versus 2.5 water,
right?
You take the cartridge out, you're still going to get you're going to get about 3.0 water.
Okay.
So what happens is, if you take the cartridge out, my wife calls it 10.5 water, because you're removing the salt that's going to break down the cell membranes, and
right.
You're going to get a higher pH. You're going to get a higher ORP.
Right.
But when you add the salt solution, you're creating hypochlorous acid in a mild ammonia base that breaks down fatty lipid layers.
Dr. Michael, if you don't mind me interrupting you, can you just off your PowerPoint? Some Picasso is trying to flex his drawing skills muscles. Yeah, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right.
So what we tell people is, if you really want the extra kick, just pop the cartridge out. The machine still runs. You do a slow fill and check it with your own ORP meter. Check it with your drops. It still works. But when you're adding in that salt with that hydrogen, you don't want to do it long term. That said, in a clinical standpoint, you know, for people like when we deal with our neurology patients, for instance, they've got Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Asperger's, autism, fibromyalgia, take your pick, and we're giving them MCT oils, like cold-pressed organic coconut oil.
Right.
Well, it's really hard to get stuff into the brain and the nervous system. But if you wake up first thing in the morning and you're partially dehydrated,
yeah,
you know, we get up, we chug a bottle. What we tell them is take a whole spoonful of cold-pressed organic coconut oil and eat it. And then drink 6 ounces of the 11.5, because that helps emulsify the fats for rapid absorption.
Wow.
That's different than saying, hey, drink 32 to 48 ounces a day or a gallon of 11.5.
Okay.
And clinically speaking, we haven't seen any difference between 11.5 and 9.5 for, you know, a lot of it's cancer patients or diabetics.
Right.
We haven't seen any clinical difference, so it's not worth the risk in my mind. Using the 11.5 to drive in MCT oils into the brain and the nervous system makes sense.
I see. Right.
Other than that, for nutritional drinks, there's no reason to. Your green drinks, 9.5. Your nutrition drinks, 9.5. Therapeutic ketones, 9.5. Drink all day long, 9.5. Drinking MCT oils, 6 ounces of 11.5 to get it into the system.
Right.
Serves a purpose.
How often do you do that, Dr. Michael, with the MCT oil?
Have you seen this brain? I do it every day. No, I do it 3 or 4 times a week.
2 or 3 times?
Yeah. So there's a brilliant lady. I actually met her when I was Oh, you missed. I was going to play. Now you had to go. The eagle? My eagle's right there.
I can't see it. Okay.
I'll spin it around when he starts to move. But you know how you had the eagle the other day?
Yep.
Vibin. Her name is Dr. Mary Newport, and her husband ended up with Alzheimer's.
Okay.
And they said there was nothing she could do for it. And what happened was she started the whole coconut oil MCT.
Yep.
You can look at Mary Newport, Alzheimer, coconut oil. She started it. And what happened is that was the precursor for, you've probably seen everybody talking about ketones and ketogenics and all that stuff. And that was the stuff for the brain. Well, Dr. Dom D'Agostino, who did the research on that, is a friend of mine. And we've talked extensively. And his protocols are increase oxygen for cancer, or increase oxygen levels, increase ketone levels, eliminate glucose and sugars.
Right.
That's the swing. Because cancer actually requires sugar to function. It's a metabolic syndrome. It's not a disease, but that's another whole story. But when she did the MCT oils, she found how much it improves brain function. It stimulates ketosis.
Right.
And so when you use the 11.5, it's just like the little, Macaulay or Grideli's little, hey, look. It breaks down fats. It helps to emulsify it. It makes it easier to absorb. Right. Does it do it perfect? No. Look at them. See what I mean? You're like, hey.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They're just kind of like. So that's the proper use of it.
Okay.
Don't just drink a gallon of it a day.
Right.
That's my professional opinion. And if you look at an adjunct, they say don't drink 11.5. Don't drink 2.5. That said, if I have the stomach flu, I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of 2.5. Kills whatever you got in your digestive tract. I'm not going to drink 2.5. You just don't do that.
Okay.
You get strep throat. Gargle with 2.5.
Right.
I'm really prone to lung infections. I was bubble boy, so my lungs are asthmatic thing. I start to get sick, bronchitis. I put 2.5 in my humidifier. I'm breathing it in. Why? I'm going to kill whatever's in there, man. And those are the types of things that are listed in the doctor's platform, too. Those are some of the procedures and protocols that we talked about. So,
right.
But in the healthcare standpoint, you have to have a scientific, legit reason to do something, not like, hey, I tried this, it worked great. And a lot of times people are like, all I did was change. No, you didn't. As soon as you switched from drinking to just drinking this water, you weren't drinking something else.
Right.
It's like when we talked about the Anespa. The reason it works so well is, one, it gets rid of the trihalomethanes, it gets rid of the chlorines, the bromines, and it has those tufa minerals that are the only ones in the world that do it. And it's like, so not only am I adding good stuff in through my skin, I'm not putting the bad stuff in.
Right. So Dr. Michaels, the last session, you actually recommended people to use the NSPA, right? But the NSPA, the NSPA water is not considered a electrolytes reduced water, right?
No, it's a passive restructured water ionizer.
So can you elaborate a little bit more on the NSPA water and what makes it so special?
Honestly, what makes it so special is you have the radium tufa minerals from Japan. So, we've all heard about, the Japanese hot springs. I don't know if you've got any in there, but if you want to fly me over there, I'll check.
Yeah, good.
I'm willing to do the research.
All right.
And so what happens is, because you're on that volcanic rim, you get a lot of minerals that boil up and that are released, and you have really good hot springs, but then they're filtered through the mountains. And so in Japan, they'll actually quantify certain hot springs as medicinal hot springs with curative properties for A, B, C, X, Y, Z.
Okay.
and they regulate them really intensely. And this video, I don't know if you got a chance to watch it, but it's in that back office that I sent you. Gets into the science and the research of the Inespa. And so what happens is they regulate it based on mineral content, what's there, what's not. The national standard for Japan is the Futamata Hot Springs out of Hokkaido, because it has the highest concentration of minerals and everything in the hot springs.
Right.
So what Mr. O did is he bought the mineral rights. So he takes those minerals and he puts them in your shower unit.
Awesome.
So even, the filtration in it is amazing. I don't know of any other shower filter that removes trihalomethanes and outgassings. Ours does.
Wow.
Really glad it gets rid of chlorine, because what chlorine does is it binds in your thyroid. You need iodine to boost your immune system, to boost your metabolism, to boost your weight loss and the way you metabolize stuff.
Right.
Well, what happens when you soak in chlorine, now, are you in quarts or are you in liters over there?
Come again? A liter.
Are you in liters?
Liters.
Okay. So it's what? 1.3 liters per quart or something like that?
Something like that.
I'm trying to do the math. So when you soak in a hot tub that's got chlorine in it,
right,
every 10 to 15 minutes, you absorb as much chlorine through your skin.
Wow. As
if you drank a quart of that water. So if your kids go swimming in a pool and they're in there for 2 hours,
it's all gone in.
That's 2 gallons.
Yeah, it's all gone in. Oops.
You're gone again.
It's not me, it's you, bro. Everybody's looking at you. You're frozen, you're like this. Am I right, Jeffrey? He's frozen, right? It's not me, right? I think I'm still okay. Guys, am I still okay? If I'm okay, just give me a 1, just to show that I'm okay. And it's not me that's freezing. Yeah, I can see so many ones coming up now, right? So I'm okay. Hey, bro, you are like, Dr. Michael, are you there? Hello? Your eagles have taken your Wi-Fi spot or something? Has your eagle eaten your Wi-Fi? Gosh. Anyway, guys, while waiting for Dr. Michael to get back on the on this Zoom webinar to continue to share with you, I hope that you take some notes, especially that phrase over there. Don't your child or your father, your brother, your sister do not need to suffer because of your stubbornness. I think that is a very powerful saying, But of course, there are 2 things will happen after when you say that. You will, number 1, either piss that guy off until he doesn't even want to see you ever again, or you probably get another Dr. Michaels. You never know. After all, you are not going to get the case anyway. You are not going to get a sale anyway. Might as well try this, okay? So, whoever does not need to suffer because of your stubbornness. Try it. You never know, right? Oh, anyway, guys, I've been seeing while Dr. Michael was talking just now that a lot of you are asking for that PowerPoint slide. It's not to be given for free. All right, so Dr. Michael later will be telling you of his subscription-based. I think there is a payment that you need to pay for you to get a report out, and he has done all the work. And guys, I'm sure you will agree that if somebody has done all the clinical research, all the study, and all the homework, and he has compiled everything together, I'm very sure you will agree that it's therefore right, okay, to pay to get it. All right. So I know, yes, everybody likes free things. I love free things. Everybody likes free things. But I'm very sorry, the PowerPoint is not for free. If you have managed to take the snapshot, then that's just a gift from me, from Dr. Michael to you. But yes, it's not for free. All right. So later, he will announce to you there is a fee that he's charging, I will just let him tell you the whole thing. By the way, Jeffrey, is he still back or what's going on? Can you search and see if Dr. Michael is back on the Zoom?
All right.
Is he back or he's
Alright,
done
then he has to
boarding
unmute.
already?
I think he's having some connection problem.
Yeah, I think so.
He's
Oh,
back.
I've been trying
He's
to
back
get
at his
unmuted.
beautiful home. All right.
I was trying to get unmuted.
All right. You're back, right?
Over to you, Dr.
I am.
Michael.
Okay, Dr. Michael, since
I
I
don't know what I
just talked
lost,
to
but
them.
apparently my internet just all went out, so now on my phone.
Okay, so are you okay now?
I thought I was okay before, but apparently I wasn't.
Okay, anyway, Dr. Michaels, a lot of guys just now was asking for your PowerPoint, and I told them that the PowerPoint is not free. Not that it's not free, but I said that you have done a lot of effort to produce the report, your doctor, the Dr. Michaels report, So yeah, please explain what is this report all about, how much is it, and what people are going to get and what they are going to benefit from this whole report thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, well, like we've been talking a lot about the different science and stuff, I've had a lot of healthcare providers that are asking me for, like, the science, the research. Do you have any information on this? How do you talk to patients? What do you say? So what I did during COVID is I finally took the time to build the platform to educate physicians, healthcare providers. We've got chiropractors, acupuncturists, MDs, surgeons, endocrinologists, massage therapists, anybody that's tied to healthcare, or anybody actually that wants to use the science base for education and information. And so we've got clinical research there. We have all the new 2020 Dr. Michael videos, all the new 2020 PowerPoints. There's videos on the Inespa. There's PowerPoints. There's the trifecta. We talked about the K8s, the Inespa, the Ukon. It's got the science and the research behind it. You get a license to use the Dr. Michael videos on your own personal social media. Where the official price is going to be $9.97, but we're in pre-sale right now, so all your people can get it for $4.97.
Awesome.
So you get a discount, but you get asked. But even though we've launched it, it's the pre-launch, so we're still adding more research, more videos, all that stuff.
Right.
And the link is www.thedoctorsmanual.com, and that takes you into the thing. I don't know that I've ever typed in a chat on my phone.
Never mind. You say it one more time, Jeffrey will type it in. Can you say it one more time, Dr. Michaels?
Yep. www.thedoctorsmanual.com.
Thedoctorsmanual.com.
Correct.
Is there an S on the doctors?
Yes, there is.
Yes. And
Right.
it's all,
Is that the one? Is that correct?
no, the doctor's manual. That says the doctor's the manual.
Okay.
The doctor.
No the. It's just the doctorsmanual.com.
Yep. And if you follow me on on Facebook, that's it. That's correct. Thedoctorsmanual.com. And my profile page has a link to it on Facebook as well. So if you find it there, it's right there on the homepage. But look at Uncle Bunny. She came up to join me.
Okay, does she drink Kangen water as well?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely. We went out. We were at we have a condo in Florida that we go to a lot.
Right.
And Florida water is just, it's bad anyways. And I filled her bowl before the machine because we drove like 6-8 hours, and so I filled a bowl up with water, and she was like all excited, and she walked up to it and she went and looked at me like,
what is this crap, right?
And I looked at her and like, what's your problem, girl? And she literally just like hung her head in her tail and walked off. But then I went and got my water bottle, and I was like, really, girl? And I dumped it out. and I filled it, and she drank the whole bowl, and I was like,
Wow.
"You're just stubborn," and she's like, "I ain't drinking that stuff." It was hilarious. We all laughed, but it's the
Well,
only thing she drank.
what about the Kangen water that the pets actually sniffed it or what? What got them attracted to the Kangen water?
It smells good. It's clean. It's got energy. It's on. You know, well, like when you're sitting at the ocean and you feel the electrical storms and it just smells clean and all those negative ions are blowing through you and you're just like, that's what the water does.
Right. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing, Mr. Michaels, a lot of people are also asking, if let's say you were to contain the Kangen water into a bottle, as in you bottle it, you keep it in a container, how long do you think the whole property will still last just as good as when it's coming off the tap? If it's like air sealed and in a dark bottle, that kind of thing, what do you think?
So it's an electrical charge that's super exciting. So I'm going to put you on a treadmill to go for a run.
All right.
And we're going to set it at 7 miles an hour because you're huffing it. How long can you run at that pace?
Not long.
So what happens is with the water, you get all this high energy and excitement, and it kind of ramps down.
Right.
And what we're finding based on our source water, and we've talked about the water in Malaysia a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get you more information on that, but it's an exponential half-life. So if you spit it out of the spigot,
right,
and it's at 800 right now, here tomorrow, it's going to be about 400 tomorrow. The next day, it's going to be half of that.
Right.
So how long does it keep its properties? Well, because part of what you've done is you've stripped out all the acidic minerals, the pH is actually going to stay the longest because you've removed a lot of acidic minerals by the process. You've electrically eliminated your chemicals. Now, your molecular hydrogen, your oxygen, and your hydroxide, that will rebind and just become water again. But you're going to have really high quality filtered water with a pH shift. And the pH will change because whereas most machines put in chemicals to change it and overpower it, what our machine does is it divides the water, and there's the acid side and the alkaline side. It's not adding more alkaline minerals, but it removes the acidic waste.
Ah, okay.
So you're not creating a dangerous level of alkaline minerals. You're removing the acid waste.
Right.
An interesting thing to do is, and I did this for fun, because I told you I did some stuff where I took the filter out.
Okay.
If you take the filter out, you're still going to get chlorine that comes out of the acid line. You'll remove about 80% of it just by the electrolysis process alone.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about people's questions on heavy metals?
Well, I used to like Motley Crue, Def Leppard, all the big hair bands from the 80s. No, heavy metals, they get a bad rap.
Okay.
Magnesium, heavy metal. Potassium, heavy metal.
Right.
Iron, heavy metal. If you have no iron, you have no hemoglobin. You can't transport oxygen.
So you're saying these heavy metals are good for us?
There are good ones and there are bad ones.
All right. I think they are referring to the bad ones.
No, I know they are, but I'm just saying that heavy metals aren't bad.
Okay.
That's the first thing to clarify.
Okay.
So go to detoxify heavy metals, you have to actually chelate them, and you need a really good oil for what's called oil pulling. because it's a metal, it'll oxidize and it binds in the tissues.
Right.
So you have to coat it in like almost an oil mix to get it to release to detoxify it. Right. So it's actually an intense process. As far as saying it filters this or that heavy metal, that's a misnomer. Certain metals will come out the acid line. You're getting it out of some of the filtration. If we had a lot of heavy metal in our water, I would have a pre-filtration system. As it is, we have really good source water.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Somebody says this, but I don't know how far it's true. Maybe you can correct it if it's not. Somebody says that most heavy metals in the water are acidic base, and therefore it will just go out in the gray holes. What's your take on that?
I wish that was true.
But it's not, right?
No. It's because if that was the case, we would just put a giant electrolysis unit up in Flint, Michigan that's got all the lead. So that said, there's water treatment like the stuff that we were talking about, the home unit and stuff. That has the ions that neutralize it, so it's less binding in tissues. So right. When you do it, that again fixes source water. The only way to improve electrolyzed reduced water is to improve source water. I mean, that's just it.
Right.
And so to say that a magic machine filters out heavy metal, I wouldn't make that claim. I couldn't substantiate it if I did.
I see.
Will it help? Yes. When you have a lot of the different chemicals, a lot of the chemicals going into water are acidic based.
Right.
So a lot of that gets filtered out. A lot of your organisms are getting struck by lightning as they go through the machine.
Right.
So, people are like, well, what do you use for a fluoride filter? I don't.
Yeah.
Why not? Because I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
People will like, I've got to have a fluoride filter and this, that, and the other, and then they go get in the shower and they don't have an NS spot. I'm like, so if you realize that it goes in as fluoridic acid, a lot of it does come out the acid line. What comes out the rest? A good percentage of it is going to be pre-bound with the antioxidant to neutralize and make fluoridic hydroxide, which doesn't bind in the tissues.
Right.
Say that it gets rid of fluoride? No. That's my understanding. That's what I've done, and that's the way that I look at it. If I had a place that had arsenic and lead, I'd probably move. I actually wouldn't live somewhere that had really bad water. And that's what's led us into the, those other projects that you and I have talked about.
Right.
And so a lot of people in the world don't have quality water. And so, you want to have good source water to put through your machine. The better the source water, the better the results. Okay. And so we've worked really diligently on some of those solutions, and you and I will talk more about that later. But but we want, because like even our friends in Australia, they're like, yeah, we have rainwater reclamation. It comes off the roof, and they're filtering out bird poop, and I'm like, you're doing what? And so that's where we got back into, we need more solutions for this.
Right.
And that's my big project now for the year, is globally to improve water quality for everybody across the board.
Amazing. Okay, one more thing, Dr. Michaels. Since we are still in the era of the COVID-19 and the coronavirus, a lot of people tend to ask this question: how effective is our 2.5 hypochlorous acid against coronavirus? What's your take on that? I mean, that's the most favorite question everybody likes to ask.
And I would like to tell you that it's in the back. Did you get to see the sterilization video? What do you think of it?
I've not gone through the whole thing yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the back office.
Okay.
Without making it. Oh, here's the eagle flying on the lake. He's going fishing.
Okay.
Anyhow,
you can go there, no?
So the the sterilization video in the doctor's thing, because I don't want to just put everything out because then you're liability. But once you understand what you've got, It's really good. And so I ran a test,
Okay.
and we left our counter really nasty. You know when you cook and there's like food everywhere and people have spilled stuff?
Yeah.
Well, we cleaned up all the dishes, and then I wouldn't let Abby clean the counters or the kids clean the counters. And she's like, this is disgusting. I know, right? And so instead of doing it the next day, we were gone the next day. So I waited 2 days. So there's a thing called it's a ATP meter, which is adenosine triphosphate. It determines if there's any active bacteria, molds, fungus, or viruses on the surface.
Okay.
It's what they use in hospitals to test if it's clean.
Okay.
And so I've worked with a place to, evaluate that does a lot of hospital cleaning, and that's what they told me to use, so I did. And so what we did is we just basically wiped down the counter, just like cleaned it off like you'd wipe it down.
Right.
And then we sprayed half of the counter with the 2.5 and half of it with the Clorox bleach. And so what happened is when we swabbed it at the beginning,
Yeah.
it was at 2,800 ATP, which means it was just nastiness.
Okay.
Just nastiness.
Full
You'll
of
see that
bacteria.
go You'll see that go 8 to 10,000, but 2,800 is nasty.
Right.
So then I wiped it all down, and it went down to like 1,400.
Wow.
Then I sprayed half of the counter with 2.5
Okay.
and half of the counter with the Clorox bleach.
Right.
I waited 30 seconds. The Clorox went down to 6, that's why they use it in hospitals, because it's bleach.
Okay.
And I ruined a really expensive shirt because it bleached it, and so it put a line right where the counter was when I leaned over it, which I was not thrilled about.
Okay.
So I ruined a $200 shirt.
Right.
And then it went down to 6. On the on our 2.5, it went down to 1.
Wow. It's even more effective than the Clorox.
I was, when you see it, and what we were doing is we were doing a dry run through, and my expressions were so like, oh my God, so we left it, and we just put it into the doctor's platform.
Wow. That's amazing.
So
guys,
yeah,
I mean, can you digest this information? The 2.5 hypochlorous acid works better than the Clorox. And for
the good
whatever
news
reason,
is,
if you drink a glass of it, you won't die. But if you try drinking a glass of the Clorox,
you'll be dead real fast.
See you at the top.
Yeah. And in the video, I'm real clear about making claims because, and I wish people, and I'm going to say this to you and your team because you're pretty good about it, but don't say an adjunct kills COVID or it cures cancer or it does diabetes. Everybody on your team, those people are putting the company at risk.
Yes.
They're putting those families' incomes at risk.
Yes.
And so I love the product. I use it with we sell trifectas because that's what people need.
That's true.
And sometimes they get it all at once and sometimes they spray it out. I don't care which. But I make sure that I make the statement that our electrolytes reduce water. I use hypochlorous acid. I'm not trying to claim that a Magic 2.5 water kills everything known to man. No, I said, here's a test that I did. You can arrive at your own conclusion, but our electrolytes reduced water machine produces 2.5 hypochlorous.
Right.
Well, we're also the only one that does that. But I'm not making a claim.
Okay.
Can I make that claim based on that research? Yes, I can. But it's not a claim.
Okay.
Same thing with, Kangen water helps cure cancer, or Otto Warburg says disease can't. No, those are all claims.
So we can actually say the 2.5 is actually the hypochlorous acid, right? We can use that term hypochlorous acid 2.5.
Yeah, that's in a Magic's manual.
Okay.
That's on the website.
Awesome. Because I read an article somewhere that talks about this super oxidized water that literally is able to, do wonders for wound healing, wound care, and it talks about hypochlorous acid. So
that's the reason that Enagic got its medical certification in Japan.
Because of the 2.5, right?
Yeah, not the 9.5. It's the 2.5 that got it its medical certification for wound care.
Guys, are y'all listening to this? This is new to a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people thought that the medical certification is for the 9.5. But no, it's for the 2.5. It's amazing.
And people ask me about the FDA certifications.
Yeah.
It's not a food, it's not a drug. It doesn't need an FDA certification. So when you get into hypochlorous acid for wound care, that could be an FDA certification aspect. But other than that, it's just a gimmick to make you pay more money to get the certification you don't need. It is, it's water. And the scary part is water is unregulated in the world.
Even bottled water? Gosh.
They have to all bottled water is run through an RO machine that strips it of everything.
Yep. Acidic.
Why? Because that's the law.
Yeah. No,
So
but
you can get, when people are paying $12 a bottle for the best water in the world, it's been through an RO machine.
right.
It's completely oxidized. They may add minerals to shift the pH, but electrolyzed reduced water only lasts 3 or 4 days.
Right.
Period.
That's true.
Oh, well, you're just using water from, Wisconsin or Paris or Norway that's been run through an RO machine.
It's still going through the RO machine, right? Anyway.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Dr. Michael, for all the sharing so far. Jeffrey, we are already at 9:40. We have another 20 more minutes to go. So if there's any questions, I think while I was talking, I can see all the questions coming up. So just shoot a few good ones to Dr. Michael so that he can answer some of the questions on the floor.
All right. Due to a lot of participants today, we have so much question I've been capturing. But,
And I really appreciate you doing that.
this is all for you, Dr. Michael, right? Okay. To all the participants, I won't be answering most of all, but I'll picking up one of the very few that are most commonly asked. So, Dr. Michael, question from from Andrew Chong. Dr. Michael, did you have to boil the Kangen water or feed Skylar straight from the machine?
No, when we first did it, so what happened is I was ready to just light this woman up like a Christmas tree. And I was like, okay, try the water. She just brought in the little blue jug of water with the spigot. And I was very whatever. I mean, I literally just walked in and just threw it in the car this is ridiculous. And when I walked in the house, so we had 1.5 gallons, which is about 6 liters, I guess. And I walked into the house and I started to talk to Ab and I set the thing down and I said, here's water for Sky. So our company became Sky Water. But we went and talked and we cried for a while because, I was like, I talked to the doctor today. There's nothing left to do. We've got nothing. And there's no stone. They're at a standstill. We got to prepare for the worst. And we just had a jug of water, and that was a Thursday night. So she had it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We started to see some epic results. We're like, and then Monday rolled around, and Abby goes, "You need to get more water." Now you got to understand, I had been hard on this woman because I was educating her on pH water and the stomach and the acids and the chemicals and the dangers and the plates. And now I'm like, Amy, we've seen some positive, significant changes that we would like to pursue further regarding your water. And she's like, so you're saying it's working? Well, we are seeing some positive changes.
Right.
And she's like, just say it's working and I'll give you more. Okay, it's working. I'm eating crow and I need some water to wash it down. And she goes, I'll have it there in 10 minutes. And she did. And so we went through a jug. That was the first 4 gallons that we did. The first gallon and a half we did for Skylar was over 3 days. And then we just got water, and then we got a 2.5 gallon jug, and then all my kids started to drink it. And, you know, then my oldest came home, and she had an issue with late afternoon migraines that we couldn't figure out. We thought it was stress. It was dehydration. Her migraines cleared up. And then, you know, we just started to share water out of the office, and we were sharing about, 3,000-4,000 gallons a month. And, I mean, people would just line up. And I actually was like, okay, I can't deal with all this. We're only giving out water on Monday and Thursday because it was interrupting my practice. And so I said, you can only get water from 3 to 7 on Monday and Thursday. And there were so many people, I ended up hiring a high school friend that was my daughter's friend to just fill jugs because I was just like, and then the checks just started. I mean, when Amy, you know, I was like, somebody wants one of your machines because I didn't even do the business. I wasn't interested in the business at all because I don't do those things. I don't like network marketing. I don't like MLM. I don't like whatever you call it. I'm not doing it. Well, if you fill out the W-2, you get a tax write-off. Why didn't you say that? And somebody came in and wanted a machine, and I didn't even be like, oh, my first sale. I was like, hey, Amy, I got a guy here who wants one of your water machines. You can just come sell him a machine. So she sold him. She came in. She filled out the paperwork. She did it. And all of a sudden, I got a check in the mail, like a commission check. And I was like, an magic. I literally got 4 of them, and I stuck them in Amy's file because I thought they sent her checks to the wrong place. And she came in to get adjusted, and I'm like, yeah, here's your money. I don't know why they sent it to me. And she goes, no, that's your money. I'm like, what do you mean that's my money? You get a referral check. But I wasn't going to do the business. You're doing the business. No, I'm not. Yes, you are.
What you
And,
are?
you know, we did $150,000 in our first 8 months.
Wow.
I was,
Why you never? I mean, Dr. Michael, apart from maybe you have an allergy to money, why weren't you interested to look at it as a business? I mean, what went through your mind in the beginning?
okay, so in the late 90s, early 2000s,
Okay.
network marketing had a big stigma. It was
Why?
very looked down upon.
In
And as
America?
Yeah.
Or was it just you?
No, it was universal.
Okay.
Like nobody. And if you're a professional, because network marketers historically have been a little shifty. Like the Amway concepts, the Manatech, it was just very, very salesy. I mean, you've seen it.
Yeah.
You know exactly. And so there's a stigma that went with it. And as a professional, I'm like,
Yeah.
and now, you know, about 2008, when everything crashed, that's when people started to look for legit science-based information research. And companies found out that they could save millions on marketing
Yep.
through the network model. But that wasn't until 2010. And there was still a stigma, but it was people didn't care about stigma because they had to pay the bills.
That's true.
And, you know, when I got into it, I was like, I wasn't doing the business. I had too much stuff to think about. Love the product. I'm not going to do the business because I've got to manage my practice and keep my daughter alive.
Right.
And inadvertently, what I did is I set up the procedures and protocols to distribute water with almost no effort. It became education-based. And, hey, I think it can help. Here's the research, all this stuff in the platform. And come try it if you want. But, like, I didn't deliver water. You have to show up and get it.
Right.
There's too many people wanting water. You can't have it, but you can do it Mondays and Thursdays. Like, I mean, that was legit.
Also.
And they were just buying it like crazy, and I was like, yeah, okay.
All right. Jeffrey, any other questions?
All right. I'll pick the most common one. So, is this water good for pregnant women, Dr. Michael?
This water is good for everybody. It's simply the best water you can drink. Pregnant women are alkaline by nature. They're also ketogenic.
Why do you say pregnant women are ketogenic, Dr. Michael? I don't understand.
The womb is all, the babies are in ketosis. They're only using stored fats from the mom. That's why the mom tries to fatten herself up.
Okay.
Gotta eat. And then it's metabolized, the fatty acids are metabolized in her liver, and they're circulated through the bloodstream. That's the only way they get nutrition.
Is it true that the water actually what do you call
The
it?
amniotic
The
fluid
morning
is also
sickness. Does the water help in the morning sickness issue? What do you think?
that's a blood type diet thing. But the amniotic, just a side note on the pregnant one, the amniotic fluid is also slightly alkaline. But the morning sickness, one part dehydration,
Right?
and another part is eating right according to your blood type. You heard me say I eat ketogenically according to my blood type. I'm an O blood type, so it's part of, I eat lean proteins and green veggies. Leafy veggies don't do well for me. Grains don't do well for me. Dairy doesn't do well for me.
Right.
If you're an A blood type, you're more the vegan, vegetarian mindset. Red meat's inflammatory to you. If you have a B blood type, chicken's not good, or corn. So if you happen to be an A blood type mother who has an O blood type baby, and you'll be like, whoa, man, it just throws the chemistry off.
Right. Anyway, since guys, somebody asked about pregnancy, I just want to show you this. I'm not sure if you can see it. So this is wait a minute. Okay, so this is me and my wife having she's about to deliver our youngest daughter. Okay, so
Look at those cheeks.
I'm not sure if you can see that. Okay, this is just half an hour before she is going to deliver, and it's going to be and it's a natural birth. All right. So what happened is after the let me see. After the birth, okay, look at that. I'm not sure if you can see this, but can you see it? She looks like she just went for a shopping trip. Look, even after the laborers, pushing of the baby because it's a normal birth. So that's one very good. I won't call it a sharing, but it's a very good thing. But more important, what we notice is from our 4 children. The last one, the 4th one, because of the Kangen water, it could be, I'm not sure it is, but she came out without jaundice. I'm sure you all know about jaundice. A lot of baby in Asia, they have this jaundice, the yellow thing, where they need to go under the UV light. So all my 3 children previously have this issue, where they still need to stay on in the hospital for at least 1 or 2 more days, but my 4th one doesn't. So I don't know, Dr. Michael, has that something to do with Kangen water? Because my wife was on Kangen water 1.5 years before she was pregnant.
It could easily contribute to that. It could be, there's a lot of reasons. What jaundice is you're separating the mother's blood and the baby's blood.
Okay.
And you factor that out. If they have the same blood type,
all right,
a lot of times that'll be a factor. Hydration, diabetes of pregnancy is a big thing. So all those factors, the water just helps dramatically, because you got to realize there are no health conditions that dehydration isn't a main component.
Wow.
Because that's your toxic burden. The body is losing its ability to filter out garbage because it's filtering garbage in.
Right.
And so when I speak for neurologists and stuff, they'll tell you 60-70% of all neurological problems are dehydration in the nervous system. And people are like, well, what does that mean? Gary, have you ever had a brain freeze or an ice cream headache?
Yep.
Your brain was dehydrated.
Ah.
That's, people are like, well, no, it's something cold. Well, then why isn't it every time you eat something cold?
Right.
I don't know. Well, it's trigeminal neuralgia. Well, why don't you get trigeminal neuralgia? Everything I don't know. If you're partially dehydrated, your brain closes down the exit portal to retain fluid,
Okay.
and it will pull anything in it can immediately to hydrate it.
Is that also the same thing that happens when a person have a hangover after a night of heavy drinking? Is that what happens? The same thing?
Yeah. And so what happens is the hydroxide binds to the free alcohol, and you
Right.
neutralize it. So we like to go out and party on a regular basis. We haven't grown up yet, so we'll go out, dinner, dancing. Abby and I date every week.
Awesome.
And I had a friend that was a police officer, and he was with us one time, and I gave him the water, and then I gave it to the guy at the bar that was the bartender, and he's like, oh, this will be cool. So Billy brings over his breathalyzer test. And so he did it, and he goes, yeah, you're pushing the limit. You know, you're not there yet, but I wouldn't recommend you get behind the wheel. Like, cool. So then I took 24 ounces, and I chugged it. We waited 8 minutes, and I was nowhere near the legal limit. So RO water has less than a 40% saturation intracellularly,
Wow.
which means it doesn't get into the cells.
Wow.
So if you need to drink half your body weight in ounces per day of water. I know you probably do like the metrics in kilos and milligrams.
Yeah.
I weigh 200 pounds. I have to drink a minimum of 100 ounces of water, which is a little less than a gallon or probably 3 liters. I do better on 6 liters. And that's because the water's got an 80 to 90% saturation ratio. If you're drinking RO water, you need to double that.
Cool.
Just because, don't go drinking and say I drank Kangen water, I can drive my vehicle. Don't drink when I go out anymore. I only have scotch here at the house. But then again, we're all under quarantine, so we can't go anywhere anyways. But yeah, no, that's not an advocate to, drink too much. That was specifically for a test. Alcohol's not healthy as a rule. I know people like, well, a little red wine is good for your HDLs and your LDLs. No.
Not even red wine?
Alcohol's not a good excuse. It does what it does. But it was an interesting test to see the way that it affects the brain. When you look at, if you go to the doctor's manual section under the, where it talks about what people are saying about it, I've got a clinical psychologist that does brain EEGs, and he has done some testing on, here's a brain scan,
Right.
here's 16 ounces of Kangen water, he waits 30 minutes, and the functional improvement in the brain is clinically significant. It increases the theta waves, which is focus and direction. None of this information was available when I got my machine. It would have made it easier. I bought this machine because my daughter pooped.
Amazing.
She thought it was a snake. It was the first time she had a solid bowel movement. I bought the machine. Let the results speak for themselves. For those of us that have a responsibility to educate people properly, the platform is perfect. I don't care what healthcare profession you're in. If you want to use it, great, we'll help you. But we bought the water because she pooped. like, that's a fact. Don't overcomplicate it. And don't think you have to do all of this stuff. When you see the procedures and protocols, it gives you clinical credibility, but it's like, hey, I think this could help you. Come try the water. Because people are going to Google you and go, what's alkaline ionized water? It's not what we're giving you, but that's what they're looking at.
Right.
This gives you the information to show them the right thing. Because we all Google it. That's what we do.
Yeah.
But don't forget, we bought our machine because she pooped. Not because all the clinical research pointed to this is what we should be looking at.